I'm now going to continue my video series on Henry Ward Beecher and his sermons by bringing up the topic of what keeps you from serving God. So why don't you serve God? Well, let's go through a typical conversation, shall we? I don't serve God because I'm facing eviction and starvation. Why are you facing eviction and starvation? Because I don't have a decent paying job. Why don't you have a decent paying job? Because I don't have a decent education. Well, why don't you have a decent education? Well, that's because nobody will provide me with a decent education. Whoa! There's the problem. Now we've gotten to the core of it. There's your problem. Okay? Now, many Christians will say that they don't have time to educate all of those unfortunate people. Yet they are sitting there, they've got homes, they've got cars, they've got clothes, they've got food, they've got amenities running out the wazoo. So for all of those Christians that do have clothes, cars, homes, food, and amenities out the wazoo, I have a message for you. I fully comprehend how little time you have on your hands these days. There's no way you could spend that much time educating that many people. And it's because of that I have gotten on YouTube and I have created all these videos so you wouldn't have to. Wasn't I a really nice guy about that? That's right. All you have to do is share the information that I have been placing on this YouTube channel with all these unfortunate people. That's right. You could invite them to a community building and give them little tablets. They can watch me all day long. Okay, you can set up some free Wi-Fi. You can pull some money together and hook up these little tablets and give them a bunch of free Wi-Fi. You can work out a deal with the cable company. I know you can. These are the kind of things you can do. You don't have to teach them yourself. Just have them watch my videos. And I'll do all the teaching. It'll be my responsibility, not yours. So you get out of all of that. But let me tell you something. If you refuse to either teach them yourself or have me do it for them, for you. In other words, I'm taking the burden off your shoulders. You don't have to educate them. I'll do it myself. If you refuse to do either one, God will hold you an account on Judgment Day. He will. He'll say it's your fault that they aren't serving me. And you don't want God saying that. That is the number one reason why people do not serve God. They don't have resources because they don't have a decent job. And the reason why they don't have a decent job is because of that lack of decent education. And that's because nobody's providing them with a decent education. That's what I'm here for. Okay? And as I have said before, the Bible is the core of education. The Bible's the core of it. It isn't all of it. This Bible will not teach you how to plant a garden. This Bible will not teach you how to keep good records. You know, like accounting, that kind of thing. It's not going to teach you how to fix a car. It's not going to teach you how to catch fish. It's not going to teach you how to fix potholes in the road. You see what I mean? It's not going to teach you a valuable trade. A valuable trade that will earn you a decent income. This book will never teach you that. It teaches you morals and values and principles. That's true. This book teaches you how to keep the job. It's not going to tell you how to get there. Let me tell you something. If you cannot count change, you will never hold a retail job. It's that simple. God cannot put somebody in a retail job if they can't count change. If they can't do basic mathematics, they're not going into retail. And you can fix all the resumes you want, but they're not going into retail. It's not going to happen. God cannot place somebody in a decent paying job if they have no job skills. It doesn't work that way. The end. And that is the number one reason why people do not serve God in the United States today. Now we'll go on to the number 2. Reason number 2. We're going to go right on to reason number 2. I know I stutter a little bit, but we're going to go on to reason number 2. Yes, I do stammer too. Okay. Reason number 2. That's because you don't ask God where to go to serve Him. And more importantly, you don't ask God what to do when you get to where God wants you to go. Paul was in constant communication with God. Constant communication. Paul set up several churches at God's command. God would say, you go here, you do this, and this is what I want you to do. Okay? Now, he didn't do it word for word. He didn't have to. Paul knew how to communicate with God. Let me tell you something. You want to learn how to communicate with God, first you have to learn how to read. How are you supposed to know God's will if you can't read it? God's will is right in here. That's right. God's will is in here, but if you can't read it, what good is it? That's what the ancient Jewish people back in Galilee were having a problem with. And it became such a problem that Jesus himself had to show up on the scene, and he had to tutor these people. That's right. Think about that. They had 3 religious groups back in 1st century Judea. They had the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes. And guess what? All of their teachings were wrong. All of them. Not one got it exactly right. And Jesus proved that point time and again when he confronted them over and over again during his 3-year ministry. He flat out told them, he said, it's not what goes into your mouth that is unclean. It's what comes out of your mouth that is unclean. He had to tell that to the Pharisees. Think about that. These were educated Jewish people. And Jesus had to tell them that. You see what I mean? The Galileans could not read or write. Therefore, they couldn't read the Torah for themselves and figure out what was going on with the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes. And that's what caused all the trouble. Let me tell you something. When Jesus picked out his disciples, Matthew, tax collector. You don't collect taxes unless you can read and write. Peter was a fisherman. How was he going to trade the fish on the marketplace? Because he knew how to read and write. Getting the idea? Judas. You can say a lot about Judas, but he was the treasurer of the group. That meant he knew how to read and write. Paul was a former Pharisee. You didn't become a Pharisee unless you knew how to read and write. Do you understand now? Do you get it now? That's the message. So, reason number 1, lack of education. Reason number 2, you do not keep in constant communication with God. God will literally open up possibilities for you to minister unto people once you get properly educated. That's the next one. Now, okay. Now, what about lack of resources? Well, again, we've cured that. Let me tell you something. When it came to resources, once you got your education, Moses had an education. Think about it. He had some of the best education in the world. He came from the Egyptians. Yes, he was Jewish, but he got educated by Egyptians. He has one of the best educations you've ever thought of. Think about that. But what would Moses have been without his staff? God made sure that Moses had his staff. Think about that. When David confronted Goliath, God said, hey, those smooth stones down there, look at those. Those are smooth stones. I want you to fling them with your slingshot. God made sure that David had those smooth stones. So God makes sure you have resources once you got your proper education. That's how it works. Think about Solomon. He built an entire temple. God made sure he had the resources so he could build a temple. And Jesus. You hear about the 5,000 people that Jesus fed with loaves loaves of bread and fish. It was very little amount of fish and bread, okay? I don't know, it was 5 loaves and 2 fish or something like that. It's in there. It just doesn't come to me right now. Okay? Sometimes I have a little slip of the mind, but it will come to me. But anyway, you're missing the whole point. That was 5,000 men. Now all those men were married. That makes 10,000 people. And they had at least 2 kids. So now that's 20,000 people. Jesus fed 20,000 people with a little bit of bread and a little bit of fish. Talk about resources. God will make sure you have your resources. Once you have your education, He'll make sure you have your resources. Let me tell you something. God puts food on the ground for birds to eat. He doesn't throw it down their throats. They have to go get it. It was just like the manna in the Old Testament. You can go look this up for yourself. God put it on the ground. They had to collect it. God will make sure you get your resources once you get your education. That's a fact. All you have to do is look for it. Okay. Now, you say, well, I'm too afraid to serve God. What will happen to me if I start serving God? Okay. Let's take a look at this. Think about this for a second. Moses gets all of those Jewish people out of Egypt. They're facing a great big body of water in front of them and an Egyptian army behind them. There's a reason to be afraid. But was Moses afraid? No, because he was in constant communication with God. He had the education. He had the resources. He did what God said to do. That big body of water opened up. Moses and the Israelites, they crossed, and the Egyptians were drowned. So don't be afraid to serve God. Okay? You say, well, I lack confidence. Let's get over this confidence problem right now. What about Ezekiel? You know what God told Ezekiel? He said, look, I want you to preach a message, and I guarantee you not one person's going to accept your message. Wow! So Ezekiel's preaching a message that he knows dang good well nobody's going to accept. And they're going to humiliate Ezekiel for ever saying it. There's lack of confidence. Now, if Ezekiel had enough confidence to preach God's message despite the fact that nobody listened to it, what's your problem? Okay? Lack of consistency. Well, I'll do it today. I won't do it tomorrow. I won't do it the next day. That's called laziness. Oh, God has an answer for that too. Don't be lazy. Okay? If you don't get in the habit of serving God, well, you probably never will. That's the problem. You get as much bad habits as you can good habits. Don't be God's glutton. Yes, feed off of God's Word, but then share it with others. Don't be like that person that sits there, he eats the steak in front of 20 other people and says, hey, you're not getting any steak, it's just me. Yeah, he's going to die of heart disease, and they're going to die of starvation. Get the picture? Okay. Oh, and the last one. Why should I ever serve God? I don't have any motivation to serve God. Well, did you wake up this morning? Okay. Did you have clothes on your back? Food in your belly? Roof over your head? A car to drive? Did you have your treadmill so you can get yourself fit? Okay? Think about that. Think of the people that do not have even half what you do, and you are sitting here watching me on the internet. Think about that for a second. You have access to the internet. That means you got electricity. You probably have a phone too. Now what's your excuse? See? Get rid of that lack of motivation. You wake up and you say, God, thank you for the food I've eaten. Thank you for the clothes I'm wearing. Thank you for the internet that I have in the tablet or the computer that I'm watching TED on. Shoot, thank the Lord that I'm on the air 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to educate you. You got a real friend right here. I'm not going anywhere. How about you? I'm not done educating you yet. I want you to have the decent paying job. I want you to have the decent life. I'd like to see some of you people be able to vacation in Florida when it's a good time to vacation in Florida. Shoot, I'd like for you guys to be able to just drive a couple of hours on a nice little Sunday type drive. Just enjoy the scenery. I'd like for you guys to be able to do that. I know right now you can't. But that's what I'm here for. I'm trying to fix that problem so you can. I want you to have your good times. I want you to also start serving the Lord. You have no excuse now. I'm eliminating the one true excuse that you have through education. So you keep learning from me, you keep applying those skills, and when you do, you will eventually get a decent paying job. And when you do, start serving the Lord. And like I told you, Christians, either you take the time and educate all those unfortunate people and get them back to work, or you let me do it, one of the two. Don't stand there and say, hey, I couldn't possibly tell them about you. That's lazy. I don't want to hear lazy. Okay? So, now that we've eliminated all the excuses for serving God, and we're dealing with the only valid one we have, and I'm going to deal with it all the way to the end. Learn from my videos, share my videos, and then start serving the Lord. Okay? By the way, when this video is over with, here's what I want you to do. I want you to just sit in your chair, turn my video off, turn off that computer. Just go ahead and turn it off. And for just 5 minutes, what I want you to do is to thank God for everything you do have. Just take a moment, tell God, I'm thankful for my home, I'm thankful for my car, I'm thankful for the clothes I'm wearing, I'm thankful for the food I'm eating, I'm thankful I'm still in good health, if that's what you are. If you're in good health, thank you for it. If you don't thank him for it, he'll put you in ill health until you thank him for the good health you do have. Do you still got 10 fingers and 10 toes? Be thankful. Do you still got a voice? Be thankful. You still got a head of hair? Be thankful. But yeah, I would like for you to just take 5 minutes, turn everything off, and thank God for every single thing you have, including the fact you have a friend right now that's helping you. I could have just simply said, well, I ain't educating anybody. What's the point? Well, I take the attitude of Ezekiel. Whether you listen to me or not, I'm going to continue educating anyway. How about that? All right. This is Ted the Speed Learner signing off. I will tell you more in a future video, so I want you to stay tuned.